So my name is Nima King, and I grew up in Australia, and I came to Hong Kong when I was 21 years old to continue my practice in Wing Chun Kung Fu. Originally I'm from Iran. I was born during a time of war, so we ran away from there, and when I was around 9 years old, and I couldn't speak any English. I was a complete different culture, so naturally I was an easy target for bullies. Therefore, I really wanted to learn how to defend myself. So back then there was no internet. We had the yellow page books. And my thinking was, whichever has the colorful advertisement and the biggest advertisement, they must be doing well in business. So just by luck, I found Sifu Jim Fung's Wing Chun Academy. And then I started, and I was 14 years old at the time. In 2003, I met Choi Shantin. He came down to do a seminar. At that time I was doing bodybuilding, I was doing lots of Wing Chun. I was already a Wing Chun teacher. I had that kind of young mindset of, okay, fighting is about strength and about, you know, blood, sweat, all this kind of stuff. And the first interaction I had with him, I was very impressed because he wasn't about that. He was extremely powerful in terms of what he could do, but he was extremely humble. You know, always a big smile. If you bow to him, he will bow back. He was very respectful to other people and kept to himself. He wasn't like that, you know. So it changed my thinking towards what a man is like and what a tough person is like, what someone that has real power is like. And then during that seminar, he asked for someone to come up to demonstrate on. I put my hand up and I went up. I held my hand and he put his hand on top and he said, try to stop me. So I held very strong. And he moved his hand down. As he was talking, quite effortlessly, he just went like that. And I felt like someone just threw like a 40-kilo bag of cement on my arm. Went down and I couldn't believe it. I looked him up and down, I said, do it again. And I changed my stance and I held it even stronger. And then he sort of looked at what I did, he smiled, and then this time he did it from maybe about 2 or 3 inches away, quite fast, and he nearly hit me to the floor. I felt like my body just dropped down from there. It was like what you would see in the movies. It was mind-blowing. And right then and there, I decided I need to follow this man. So it took me a couple of years to save up and get my things together, and 2005 I moved to Hong Kong to train under him full time. This is Yip Man School in 1955. So this is Yip Man. This is the first student of Yip Man, Leung Sheng. Lok Yu is the second student, and my teacher, Choi Shantin, was the third student. He had a couple of students that he took on as his direct students, only two Americans. One of them was in the very early days, in the early 1960s. He asked Yip Man for permission. He said, can I teach this foreigner? And Yip Man said, yes, you can. It was very challenging to communicate because he couldn't speak any English. I couldn't speak any Cantonese. Luckily, we had, you know, a lot of his students which would be able to translate for us. We were training in his house initially, in his living room. Majority of the times, for the first 15-20 minutes, me, sometimes by myself, or me and other Aussie guys that were with us, we were there. So it's like, you can't talk, you can't communicate. So we're just standing there practicing, and he was walking around, and he was through tactile teaching, through touch, through gestures of not this and this, he would show, you know, he would show the difference. So I think in some ways it was beneficial not to be able to communicate in the beginning. It forced us to be able to feel it and understand it through feeling rather than through concepts. In 2008, we opened this school here. A foreigner teaching a big part of Chinese culture, it wasn't very easy. Someone might have seen an advertisement somewhere, a flyer, and then they come in and they're like, oh, okay, I want to try a class. We're like, okay, great, come in. They're like, where's the Sifu? Who's it? Like, you're looking at him. They're like, you? And then I say, yeah, just come, it's okay. Then I would say, okay, who my teacher is. Then they start to see, okay, it's a very legit lineage. Within minutes, as soon as I touch hands with them, I say, okay, feel this, feel the difference here. And as soon as I touch hands with them, they say, okay, this is very special. And then it didn't matter what I looked like. It didn't matter if I was Chinese or foreigner.
The story starts with Yip Man movie. Wow, Wing Chun, I had to do that. I discovered this school on the online session. 5 years after, I have to come here. I left everything behind me to come here.
I started Wing Chun in the UK about 9 years ago. Someone came in that had done CST Wing Chun, and I touched hands with him, and he could just, I couldn't do anything. So I knew straight away then that I wanted to change, and then found the online school and the videos, and then I was hoping to just come here and train, and then ended up getting a job. So sold everything and moved.
I've been teaching this for a long time. I've been teaching this for Wing Chun in general for like 24 years now, 25 years now. In Wing Chun, one of the key principles that maybe other forms of Chinese Kung Fu don't have is the concept of center line. The idea of center line is to be able to feel and interconnect your whole body. Once you feel and interconnect the whole body, you project with your intention, you project the energy of the body into a point. I think in terms of the way I explain, let's say, these concepts that I describe now, each person, each student is a different puzzle. Some people are stressed. Some people you need to give them the answer to the question. Some people have back problems. Some have balance issues. So how you explain the same concept or the same idea to each different person must vary. It needs to be specialized and specific to the person. There's a lot more Chinese weeks in international schools in Hong Kong now. Usually for Chinese week, they need someone like us to go there and share Chinese culture in a fun way with the kids. And there are groups that I'm now associated with, for example, the Hong Kong Wushu Association. Now with what this association is doing and what we're trying to do, I think I'm confident that Kung Fu will be preserved in Hong Kong. And then if someone randomly China in general, I feel really, it's one of the most welcoming places. If I say a couple of Cantonese words or Mandarin words, people like cheer you on, you know, and that's a very special thing. Because on the other side, it's not like that. On the other side, you know, again, my wife is Chinese. Like we were in Australia 2 months ago, I was teaching a workshop. So that day I wasn't able to be with her and the kids, and they went with my mom, they went to some Saturday market. And she said she had 2 experiences of racism in that day. I've never felt that in that sense, you know. So no, Hong Kong is, from day one, was very welcoming. You know, people were great, easy to communicate, easy to get by. Even before we couldn't say anything, we couldn't communicate, and in Mong Kok and stuff, some of them don't speak English. But you go to a restaurant, seriously, and we say, oh, we want noodle. They're like, oh, noodle. And they were saying stuff, and we're like, moo. We're like, cow. Cow, oh, cow, yeah, okay, so they bring the beef noodles, you know, and we're all laughing, you know, and it was a very like a fun thing, you know, so we didn't feel not welcomed, you know. Wing Chun really did change my life. I went through a very violent and traumatic upbringing and experience and things like that. So this, for me, you know, him, my teacher, and the practice really saved my life. That this was my therapy. This is my therapy, and that all happened here. You know, my kids were born here. For me, it's a very safe place. Initially, I thought I'm only going to stay for a couple of months. I told my mum I'll be back in 2 or 3 months. It's been 21 years now. I'm not planning to go anywhere. This is definitely home.